Who is this Games Workshop, and what have they done with the other Git that's been running it for a while? Wow! Welcome back to the Red Ones Go Fast. Old Big Mek here, and it's time for an episode of The News! And it's an interesting one, so let's get into it. Alright, for those of you that have been living under a rock, the news is when old Big Mek has decided there's finally enough stuff to talk about for Warhammer to actually do a news update. And we absolutely have enough stuff to talk about right now. First of all, this week in Orkdom, because, you know, we love everything green here on this channel, we are finally getting the new tank bustas. They're not really tank bustas, they kind of have a different name, so we'll see what happens with that, but they are coming in the new Kill Team box this weekend. So it'll be exciting to see what kind of data sheets they come with, what comes out for 40k, whether these guys just replace tank bustas entirely or are a new unit to go onto them. But they are coming out in the new Kill Team box with the Rattling Snipers. Now, I am a huge Imperial Guard guy, along with my orcs, as you see here. There are my two main armies. So I am very much into this Kill Team box in general. Plus, I just like having terrain, especially GW terrain. So for me, it's a no-brainer buy. But if you are just into orcs and or just into the Rattlings, and you don't want to buy this box, just wait. Because everything else they released this week are all of the old Kill Teams in new boxes. Now, I will fully admit some of these boxes are priced much higher than the units had been to make up for all the like tokens and garbage that comes in them. A good example of that is like the Space Marine Scouts. That part really sucks. I don't like that. On the other hand, these are squads that are designed for Kill Team first and Warhammer 40k second, or even not even 40k at all. And the pricing structure reflects that. There are certain Kill Teams that are just a 40k squad reboxed with a little extra frame on them. They are significantly cheaper than the teams that have been designed for Kill Team first. I'm okay with this. Kill Team is its own standalone thing. It has a very, very robust community around it that plays Kill Team competitively and really gets into it. And for those guys to get full new releases of these things, and have it be for their game, I think is really important for the health of that game. The fact that they could be used in both games is really cool, but that is secondary to the main game. So you got to kind of keep that in mind when you think about these things and the prices and whatnot. But the long and the short of it is, every single Kill Team will come out as its own box. Additionally, I have to give props where props are due. Some of these teams really shouldn't have been re-released, or really didn't need to be re-released. However, GW has done so anyway in defense of good pricing and getting rid of scammers and scalpers and things like that. The one big one that we can all agree on is the Necron Hero Tech Circle. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but you know exactly what box I'm talking about. They go for between $170 and $200 on eBay right now for that box, because that particular kit has been so hard to get for so many years. So for GW to just come out and go, hey, next week you can buy it for $50, absolutely throttles every one of those scalpers, and I'm here for it. I love it. There is no room for scalpers in this hobby. There just shouldn't be at all. Everything should be retail price or less. There isn't any reason anything should be higher than retail unless it's built and painted and, you know, gorgeous and beautiful, and you're getting all the extra value of somebody having put the paint job on it. But as far as a model new in the box, forget that. It should be retail or less. There is no reason a Warhammer model should ever bring more than retail. So it was really refreshing to see Games Workshop drop that on everybody and go, here you go, guys. Reproducing it. I absolutely love that. And that's not the only thing they've done that with. The Lieutenant Titus model has been hard to come by. It originally came out as a set that was Target exclusive only, that came with a bunch, I think it was like 40 or 20 little Tyranid guys, little Hormagaunts, something like that. And they sold out pretty quick. But, you know, not a lot of people bought them, because even if you were a player that did Space Marines and Tyranids, you already had a whole bunch of those gaunts. They're the same new ones that were in the Leviathan box and are in all three of the new starter boxes. you really didn't need a whole lot more of them. And if you're a Tyranid guy, you don't need a Space Marine. If you're a Space Marine guy, you don't need Tyranids, and the Tyranids aren't really worth anything on the secondary market. They're just kind of, So then they came out with a non-target exclusive paint set that had Lieutenant Titus plus some paints in it. That set sold really well. In fact, I really wanted to get one for my Grot, but I haven't been able to find one. I got to look around. And now that set might not be available to be found. So in their releases, they're in, hey, you know what? We're just going to sell Lieutenant Titus by himself. Again, takes all the wind out of the sail. The scalpers, everybody that went to Target and bought all these sets up to try and sell this mini for way higher than what they paid for it, they can go suck a lemon. And I'm here for it. So yeah, props on GW on that one. The other thing I gotta say is it's really cool to see that they've re-released the data cards for all of the kill teams, separate from the kill teams for the people that already own them. Again, this is great customer service. Here you have, again, Kill Team is definitely growing. It has its own very, very healthy community surrounding it that is into Kill Team for just Kill Team. They're not just playing it as an entry to 40K or because they can't get it for, like, they are here for Kill Team. That is the game. So for Games Workshop to go, hey, I know you guys spent a lot of money on all your kill teams. We just released this new edition. The rules are changed. Here, you could just buy these data cards for a reasonable price, and then you can keep playing your old kill teams. You don't have to go buy like new boxes with the same models in them. That is smart. I wish it was a lot more just free rules and everything like that. I think a lot of them are free. But I do appreciate that there's a lot of people out there, especially people like me, that don't necessarily want to like carry around a tablet or a phone or have a bunch of like random PDF documents to look at, and would much rather have like a physical card and just go, bang, here's my stats. This is everything I need is right here on this piece of paper. I do think that it's cool that it is at least an option. So yeah, lots of cool stuff coming with that. Now, all that being said, none of this is even the big news. The big news is obviously what we've been talking about for a couple of episodes here with the release of the new detachments for Grotmas. So, Games Workshop is doing this Grotmas calendar. It's kind of like an advent calendar where they are giving us 30 new detachments in 24 days on the build-up to Christmas instead of doing their normal leaks of the little pieces of minis upcoming, right? And it's been a pretty cool idea. It's nice that they've kind of clarified what they meant. We had a whole video about this during the live stream. They said 30, and then when the article came out the next day, it said 24. There's more than 30 factions, like trying to figure out how many we're getting, what it actually looks like. We are getting multiple detachments on multiple days. In order to make up for it, there's going to be at least 30 because every single faction is definitely getting their own. And one of the things we talked about is, well, maybe like Chaos might get like one detachment for Chaos Space Marines, or you could take all the different ones together. Nope, they've already released Death Card as their own standalone thing, right? So same thing with like Tyranids and Gene Stealer Cult. Maybe they were going to have like a combined. Nope, we got just a straight Tyranid. So every straight faction that has like their own standalone codex or index is definitely getting their own detachment, which is really, really cool. We are now, I'm filming this on the 3rd. We are 3 detachments deep. And I've got to say, these detachments are pretty good. And not just in like competitive gameplay, meta, whatever. I mean like flavor. That's been the biggest thing missing from 10th edition. When 10th edition came out, everything got so samey, and all of the flavor disappeared. And what little flavor there was so overpowered that they immediately had to nerf it a whole bunch from a bunch of different ways. So like all the Fate Dice stuff with Eldar had to get whacked with the Banhammer, all the Miracle Dice stuff with Adeptus Sororitas, etc., etc. So everything that gave any kind of flavor was so overpowered that it had to get smacked down. And because of that, this edition has just been really awful to play because it doesn't have any of the flavor. It doesn't have any of the oomph that makes 40k, right? Like the whole grimdark thing is that it's excessive, but excessive in ways that are almost funny or comical. Things like, orc shock attack guns accidentally shooting themselves through the warp instead of their little snotling victims. Things like back in the day when a chaos, leader might accidentally spawn into a demon prince or turn into a puddle of goo. Things like having random rolls on your artillery where it lands. Who knows where it's going to end up, stuff like that. Those randomizations, those unknown factors, they were very flavorful, and a lot of the armies were really flavorful. If you took an orc army that was full of buggies, that was cool. It wasn't overpowered, it was just cool. And those have all kind of gone away. So these detachments that have come out so far, we've gotten Death Guard, Dark Angels, and Tyranids now. All three detachments have been relatively decent as far as gameplay is concerned. Are they overpowered? No. Are they trash? No. They're somewhere in the middle, and that's a good thing. They should be somewhere in the middle. It shouldn't be just some way to make every army uber competitive. That's not the point. But what they are is true to the lore and true to the flavor of the armies in a way that is fun to play on the tabletop. So the Dark Angels one, for instance, it plays with Ravenwing, Deathwing, and regular Dark Angels. And most of the Dark Angels detachments kind of all play one way. You kind of really just want to take Gravesend or Terminators, and that's about it. And I mean, that can be fun, but that's not the only way to play. And especially people that are like big into Dark Angels and have a whole Ravenwing and a whole Deathwing and a whole bunch of regular Dark Angels, it would suck to only be able to use a third of your collection most of the time you're playing. So to have a detachment where it rewards you for taking a mixture of the units and playing to all three pillars of what makes Dark Angels is really, really cool. The Tyranid one that came out today, it moves Tyranid warriors into a battle line slot, which is really interesting, and a way that traditionally you have been able to play Tyranids for many, many editions. So for that to come back and be able to play with models that you probably already own, if you've been a Tyranid player for longer than 10th edition, you probably have more than 3 Tyranid warriors. Or maybe they're squads of 3. You would have more than 9 Tyranid warriors because of, back in the day, being able to play them as battle line. So being able to dust those guys off the shelf, put them back on the front line and go, yeah, here we go, is a lot of fun. But again, it's not done in an overpowered way. It's not like if I line up today against that army on the other side of the field and be like, oh, geez, like, how am I supposed to get across all these Tyranid warriors? It's more like, oh, this is really cool. This is fun and thematic to play against. I'm looking forward to this. And I think that that is a great thing. It took them almost 2 years to get it figured out. But I think GW is finally figuring out detachment rules and balancing armies based on those detachments instead of based on the data sheets. Here's what I'm hoping for moving forward. And maybe this is what we'll see come 11th edition. I want to return to points instead of fixed cost on units. List building was once a ginormous part of the 40K experience, but Games Workshop got rid of it in favor for these fixed cost things to try to make the game easier and more streamlined, but then way mucked it up with all of these crazy data sheets where you've got options and enhancements and special rules that all interact with you, and they're really hard to balance and keep track of. And now you've got an FAQ that's twice as thick as the actual rule book, plus a rules commentary. It's just so much. They could get rid of all of that, go back to very standard basic codexes where you're paying points per thing on your models, and then use the detachments to balance things. And the great thing about the detachments is you don't even have to put them in the codex. They can all be these free PDFs, and they can just adjust them as needed, add new ones for flavor, or hey, maybe they come out with new units like these Tank Buster replacement guys. You could just put out the data sheet for that, or put out a detachment that features them and kind of encourage people to play with them. And that's a cool thing. That's a good thing. So it would be really nice to see more of this moving forward. I'm really looking forward to seeing the rest of the detachments. I'm obviously highly vested in whatever the Orc detachment is going to be, because right now I feel like Warhorde, our general index one, is still the best one to play. And the other ones, the flavor really isn't there. Like, yeah, the dread mob, you've got the hit the button thing, but when you could just pay CP to get whatever you want anyway, it takes the fun out of the randomness, and there really isn't any downsides to anything. It's just different buffs. Some of what made all of this cool stuff cool was that it could potentially hurt you. It could potentially backfire. It wasn't just overpowered, or it wasn't just power ups. There was a potential for a power down. And that's okay. That's a good thing. It brings some levity to the game. This is just a game. It's supposed to be beer and pretzels. You're supposed to be playing this for fun. And even in an uber competitive environment, being able to deal with these different things that pop up and down, it is a good thing, is a lot of fun, and makes you a better player. So yeah, very, very happy with the detachment so far. All right, that's all the news that's fit to talk about this week. Let me know your thoughts on the detachment so far, especially if you are a Death Guard, Dark Angels, or Tyranids player. What do you think of those detachments? Throw them down in the comments. We'll definitely be talking about the other ones as they come out, so expect more of these, especially as we get into armies that I know and play. But yeah, I would love to hear from you guys that do play these. What do you think about them? Let's talk about it down below. All right. Until next time, one on!